It is highly interesting to observe the facial expressions accompanying what somebody is saying to us, which comes from his or her capital I. We can read in the person's face what lives in his or her astral body. If you observe the face of someone speaking to you, you receive the person's I with his or her words, and the other's astral body with the facial expressions accompanying the words. The astral organism of the head, which causes the changing features, is connected to an etheric organism, which is a wonderful image of the cosmos. It is very strange to observe with supersensible sight a person speaking. One sees the astral body making itself felt everywhere in the person's changing features, but the etheric organism of the head is hardly touched at all by the facial expressions. The etheric organism of the head refuses to assimilate the facial expressions into itself, into its forms. Our facial expressions are contingent on our temperament, character, and various soul and physical characteristics. They are visible, but there is still another physiognomy that is even much more vivid, but it is in our unconscious. It is supersensible, and beyond the scope of our sensory perception. When you look at our astral body, in particular the part that is connected to the metabolic limb system that surrounds and permeates our legs and abdomen, you will see a very expressive physiognomy if you have supersensible perception. The strange thing is that this physiognomy is revealed from the outside in. Thus, while the physiognomy accompanying our words and expressing our interest in our surroundings is revealed on the outside, another physiognomy that we are not conscious of is revealed on the inside. I would like to explain this with a diagram. Here we have a human being. There is the astral body that causes the facial expressions visible on the outside. And here is another part of that same astral body. In the astral body up here, our physiognomy is visible on the outside, but down here in the other part, we have a physiognomy manifesting entirely on the inside. The latter part of the astral body faces toward the inside. We are usually not aware of this, but it is nevertheless true. Children continuously turn this physiognomy of the lower part of the astral body toward their inside. By the time they become adults, the expressions or features become more or less permanently turned to the inside. Now let me tell you what is behind all this. When we have an impulse to do what is rightly called a good or moral deed, our inner physiognomy is different from what it would be if we had an impulse to do something evil. We have, in a sense, an ugly physiognomy on the inside when we carry out a selfish deed. After all moral deeds are basically unselfish, and all immoral ones egotistic. However, in everyday life, this moral difference is masked by the fact that people can be very immoral, that is, full of selfish motives, but still follow a conventional code of morality. Of course, this code is not at all their own. Rather, people are stuck in what they were taught since childhood, or in doing things because they are worried about what others will say. True morality, however, that lives in the human individuality, means that our good deeds originate in our interest in other people. We can develop this interest by feeling within ourselves what others feel and experience. Basically, immorality means that we close ourselves off against the feelings of others and are unsympathetic. To have morally good thoughts is to put oneself in someone else's place. To have morally evil thoughts is to be unable to do so. This can then develop into laws and conventional rules, things people get embarrassed about, or don't. Actions that are in fact selfish can be deeply buried beneath conventions. Fundamentally, however, morality cannot be judged on the basis of what people do. We have to go deeper into the character and nature of human beings to determine the moral value of a person. Our moral value is expressed in the astral body. Its lower part turns a beautiful countenance toward the inside when unselfish deeds and impulses live in us. When selfish and evil impulses live in us, then this part of the astral body turns an ugly countenance toward the inside. Thus, when we can read with spiritual accuracy what is inside a person, we can tell by this physiognomy whether he or she is good or evil. just as we can assess people's other characteristics by their facial expressions. All this is not accessible to our usual consciousness, but it is there, nevertheless. It is impossible for dishonesty not to enter deeply into the dishonest person. Now, an out-and-out villain may have complete control over his facial expressions and have the most innocent face you can imagine while he is plotting more villainy. Yet what is in his astral body, in his inner physiognomy and features, he cannot disguise. There he turns into a regular devil the moment his immoral motives appear. On the outside, such a villain may seem as innocent as a baby, but inside he looks like a devil, as a pure egotist. He grins diabolically at his own heart. This law applies as much as the natural laws. Now, the crucial point, depending on whether they are moral or immoral, they are either taken in or rejected by the head, and then either flow into the cosmos or shatter on the earth, burst and are scattered everywhere. If we remain within the limits of the earth, we cannot see how moral impulses actually work. They remain only abstractions for us. You can persuade and coax a machine all you want. It will not dream of accepting any of your impulses. Similarly, human beings, as they are defined by our modern worldview, cannot accept any moral impulses. To understand the reality and effectiveness of the moral, we have to enter the supersensible realm. The physiognomy turned toward the inside, the gesture turned inward, they are supersensible. Thus even a moral philosopher with the inner force of Nietzsche is at loose ends with his moral principles. He can only solidify them in the way I described yesterday. In spite of all his explanations in title Beyond Good and Evil, he had to trace everything to the physical body. That is why he failed. Thus, to understand the effectiveness of the moral, we have to go beyond the merely physical order of the world and enter the supersensible realm. We have to realize that while morality radiates into the physical in an abstract way, we can understand and assess its activity only in the realm of the supersensible. The end of Lecture 8.